Hello everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Mixed Media. I am your host, Chelsea Behrens, and joining me today are the producers of The Booth Review, which is a sports podcast. Dominic and Jack, thank you for joining and coming on the show.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
So, how did The Booth Review come about?
So originally we were thinking about writing a sports column, just head-to-head, where we voice our opinions against one another. But then we came up with the idea instead of to do podcasts, which sounded a lot more fun for us and a lot better way of reaching out to this current society because a lot of people are moving towards podcasts all around everywhere. So that's when we came up with that idea, and we're glad we chose that instead.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. How long have you been producing this podcast for?
I'd say since October. We wanted to start something. I mean, we usually are arguing in the dorm room or something. We're always challenging each other with certain sports topics, and we thought this would be a good idea to kind of voice our opinions and help our broadcasting careers.
So, do you talk about any type of sport, or is there a favorite one that you like to feature on your podcast?
We like to talk about a variety of sports, so we switch it up from football to basketball one week to baseball and soccer the other. But if I had to talk about one, both me and Jack are really confident in our football ability, so we like talking about football, and we're like just discussing that sport, and it's one of our favorite ones.
By football abilities, do you mean your ability to play?
No, definitely not. I mean, Jack played it, but I mean, I'm not bad, but not good enough for that.
Yeah, I'm retired, so I'm officially hung up the cleats, but it's good to still putting insight in towards the game and everything. It's awesome.
Awesome. So was it both of your ideas to start the Booth Review, or did someone say, like, we should just do this?
Yeah, like I said, we were just trying to start up something. We were originally going to do, like you mentioned, a column in Linden Link, but then we noticed how podcasts are starting to get more popular, so we decided to roll with that. And so that is that, though.
Do you have a weekly schedule that you like to produce them, or, is it whenever you feel like?
So our goal is to produce them and do everything with them on Fridays, but a lot of times, due to our busy schedules, we can't, or if we have a guest coming on, we have to work around that, so we can be a little bit flexible with that. So sometimes we have a Tuesday episode or a Thursday, but we usually like to stick with our Friday schedule and have them come out Friday afternoons, because that's when our audience expects them to come out and when we expect them to come out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of your audience, are you able to keep track of how many listeners you have?
Yeah, we're on SoundCloud, so a lot of the viewership pops up and how many views we got. But again, it's not just totally about the views. This is something that's really helped us so far, kind of push each other, really show that there's always two sides to a story, there's always two sides to an argument, so we're always constantly pushing each other and really challenging each other, and it's only helping us right now.
Yeah. How long do they usually run for?
The shows, so at first it was around 20 to 25 minutes, but then we started getting into better debates and having more topics to discuss, and now a lot of them are over 30. I mean, we had this one basketball episode go over an hour and 20 minutes, and that was a marathon, but that's been our longest one so far. So the lanes kind of vary, but we try to keep them around 30 minutes.
30 minutes, wow. I feel like I couldn't even spend 30 minutes talking about, sports, because I don't know a lot about sports. So how long do you plan on continuing this podcast? Do you see it somewhere in your future that you would actually want to get more publicly recognized?
Yeah, definitely. So we're looking to expand our platform right now. We're currently on SoundCloud. We're going to try to get to iTunes soon, coming up here on iTunes podcast. So we're going to try to go through that venue. But yeah, that's something we definitely want to do, whether it's podcast or with the Booth Review or maybe something else in the long run. But we always want to be putting out something like this. It's something fun to do on a weekly basis.
Awesome. Have you guys thought about putting out your own individual podcasts?
Not really. We had this one radio production class where we had to do our own podcast on our own, and I just really didn't enjoy it. I like having that other person in there just to work with. If I had to do my own podcast someday, I would, but I prefer working with a partner that knows what they're talking about.
After the short break, we'll be finding out more about the production that goes on behind the scenes of the Booth Review. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. So to continue talking about your sports podcast, so I know you said that you just like to talk about sports and any sports and that football is your favorite. But where do you get your inspiration from, and how do you kind of web out your ideas for how to structure what to talk about?
Well, we've done a lot of listening to other shows and podcasts. I mean, we're both huge sports guys, obviously. And we watch ESPN, we watch Fox, and we see how they have their shows broken down by piece. So we try to do the exact same, not the exact same thing as them, but we try to like format it in a way where we feel organized, and they do such a good job with their shows that we just try to do an equally as good job on ours.
So you like to listen to others' podcasts. Who are your favorites to listen to?
Probably, I'm not going to lie, Colin Cowherd is a guy on Fox Sports, and he does an incredible job with it. Gets a lot of views and a lot of traction, and he just is one of the model hosts for our podcast.
Really?
Yeah, he's definitely gets a lot of attention. He says some questionable things, but I mean that just goes with it. He always backs up his claims, so that's cool. That's something that we always like to bring to the table, bringing up wild sports input. But yeah, that's it.
Do you have to gather some information and get sources too, since you said that he backs up what he says, you know what I mean? Do you, what kind of research goes into it?
We do,
yeah, you can go, yeah.
Sorry, we do a lot of research. So, for example, on our show, we spend a couple days just going over the internet, writing down our notes. Our notebooks are just jam-packed with stuff, and our handwriting is so bad you couldn't even understand it because there's so much stuff in there. So it's just a lot goes into prepping for our shows, because we want to feel prepared once the microphones are on and the recording button's been hit. We want to be fully prepared and ready to go.
Yeah. But what's interesting with that though is we'll become so prepared for the show. But what's funny is when it comes to our claims on each topic, we don't know what we're going to talk about. So we go into the show not knowing what each of us what sides we're going to take. So some of the things we agree with, most of the things we disagree with. But it's interesting because none of our stuff is completely scripted in a sense. So we know what we're talking about. A lot of it's on the surprise. So.
Do you incorporate any commercials in them, or it's just all you guys?
It's just a continuous shot. So that's another thing. I mean, we'll do edits sometimes if there's maybe some white air, some air. But a lot of it, we just do straight shots, and we haven't gotten to a point where we're providing advertisements yet in our podcast. We'll probably get to that point maybe next year, possibly.
That'd be awesome.
Right, yeah, it'd be awesome. But right now, we're just kind of focusing on ourselves, and this year was a good stepping stone.
So where do you guys record, and what equipment do you use? I'm guessing KCLC?
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah, we go to KCLC. They have this podcast studio that's really well done, and we go in there, and we sit down for a little bit, and we make sure all the microphones are working. They have two nice microphones. I'm not really sure what they're called, but they're good, and we use Adobe Audition to record our podcast, so we just prep our microphones and the audio levels, and do that every showtime.
So tell me about the preparation that goes into editing and putting in your final touches to your podcast.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it, like I mentioned, we do have pretty much a straight shot. We don't really like to, maybe if there's some audio issues, especially when it comes to if we're away from the microphone, we'll maybe bring up the audio a little bit. But when it comes to just editing, we'll put in our good old intro, A to the O, what we got from YouTube uncopyright. But we'll add in our intro, and then we'll put in our outro. But yeah, that's a lot of it, and then we'll, like I mentioned, some audio levels. But it's a simple process, not too difficult.
Oh, I'm glad you guys really are able to feel passionate about it and also connect. I mean, I'm sure it's helped bring you guys closer, as if you're not already close enough being roommates.
Yeah.
But besides that, that's really awesome. And that was all for this week's episode of Mixed Media. Thank you all for watching, and thank you Dominic and Jack for your time. Be sure to check out the booth review on SoundCloud.